There's no doubt that the Sigma male has a unique personality. He marches to the beat of his own drum and doesn't care what others think of him. He's silent and confident and knows his worth. While there are many things that Sigmas love, there are also a few things they simply can't stand. Here are 13 things Sigma males absolutely detest. 1. Being unnecessarily loud. Sometimes the Sigma male can struggle with loud talking. He's a naturally quiet person and prefers to speak when he needs to rather than being constantly chatty. Loud talking is something that really gets under his skin, especially if it's someone he is not close to or doesn't know well. When he's stuck in a conversation with someone who is constantly shouting, he feels like his personal space is being invaded. He also finds it exhausting to yell just to be heard, which makes him feel drained and disturbed. Sigma men prefer a quiet, calm environment where everyone speaks at an appropriate volume level. They know there's no need to shout in order for others to hear you. While this can be difficult for some people to understand, Sigma simply prides himself on being a polite and respectful person who loves peace and quiet. 2. Making false assumptions. Despite being a confident and self-assured person, the Sigma man detests making false assumptions. He views this as an incredibly lazy way of thinking, one that is not grounded in reality or evidence. When he sees someone jumping to conclusions without considering all of the facts, it drives him crazy. He believes that everyone should have an open mind and be willing to listen and consider different perspectives. Sigma is always making sure that he has all of the information before making a judgment or decision. This is the only way to make smart, informed choices and not falling for faulty assumptions. While others may casually dismiss his views as overthinking or nitpicking, the Sigma is simply trying to be as accurate as possible. After all, making false assumptions can lead to disastrous consequences and outcomes. He refuses to let himself fall into that trap. 3. Constant mindless chatter. So many words and so little value. Unfortunately, this is the world we live in today. Everywhere you look, there is mindless chatter and small talk filling the air. Too much noise pollution and not enough substance. Sigma males are acutely aware of this problem, as they value thoughtful conversation over mindless chatter every day. They hate people who engage in endless banter without any real purpose or meaning behind it. Without a focus or direction, these conversations leave them feeling frustrated and unfulfilled. People today have become too reliant on words and not enough on actions. They have forgotten the importance of meaningful connections and real, authentic human interactions. In a world where everyone is constantly talking without actually saying anything, it can be hard for the Sigma man to find his place. Sigmas are often misunderstood as being a loner or antisocial, but in reality, they simply value quality over quantity and meaningful interactions over shallow conversations. They refuse to engage in meaningless chit-chat and want to focus on more important things instead. Conversation should always be meaningful and thought-provoking, not mindless and distracting. 4. Not being able to exit a dramatic social setting. Sigma males prefer a quiet, drama-free environment. When they're stuck in a loud, overly emotional setting, it can really grind their gears. They are not the type of people who want to sit and listen to other people's problems or get caught up in dramatic situations. If they are somewhere and don't have an out, their stress level skyrockets. They will do anything they can to get out of the situation, including making up an excuse or leaving abruptly. They're looking for a place that's calm and peaceful, where they can relax and recharge. While this may come off as rude to others, Sigmas are not into drama and aren't afraid to make a quick exit when necessary. This will often draw criticism from others, but the Sigma man simply doesn't care. He is who he is and isn't about to change for anyone else. 5. Monopolizing the conversation. They are also not fans of people who try to monopolize the conversation. They believe in allowing everyone to speak and being active listeners. When someone tries to dominate the discussion, it can be extremely frustrating for them. When someone tries to shut down other people's voices, it feels like a violation of their rights as human beings. Sigma believes in equal treatment for everyone and will not stand for anyone being silenced. They believe that conversations should be balanced and fair, with each person getting a chance to share their thoughts and opinions. If they are around someone who is constantly talking over others and not letting anyone else get a word in edgewise, Sigma will speak up. He refuses to let this behavior go unchallenged. After all, everyone deserves to be heard. 6. When someone is always waiting for help just to get by. Sigma men also have little tolerance for people who constantly rely on others to get by in life. They believe everyone should be able to stand on their own 2 feet and take control of their destiny. When they see someone who is always looking for a handout or an easy way out, it can be very irritating for them. We should all be able to make our own path and figure things out on our own without getting help from someone else. We all know that person who is constantly asking for favors or help when they could easily do it themselves. They never want to put in the work or effort and always expect others to come to their rescue. While Sigma males will always be there to lend a hand if someone is truly in need, they won't stand for people who try to take advantage of this generosity. After all, this is a recipe for laziness and dependence, 2 qualities that Sigma won't tolerate. 7. Energy vampires. One of the biggest pet peeves for Sigma men is also energy vampires. These are people who constantly drain your energy and enthusiasm without giving anything back in return. They are the people that suck you dry, leaving you feeling tired and drained. Sigma men are all about positive energy and vibes. They believe in pushing yourself to your limits, but also in taking care of yourself and not burning out too quickly. That's why they have little patience for people who constantly consume more than they contribute. Energy vampires can show up in many different forms, from emotional manipulators to toxic relationships. Whatever the case, Sigma men will do their best to avoid them at all costs. They believe that true happiness and fulfillment come from living a balanced life, one where you give as much as you take. So if you're constantly finding yourself feeling drained and exhausted around certain people, it might be time to take a step back and evaluate your situation. 8. Inauthentic people who try too hard to impress. Sigmas are known for their authenticity and genuine nature, which is why they have trouble dealing with people who put on a false front. They can read people like a book and can easily see through superficiality and insincerity. Trying to impress a Sigma can be a total waste of time, as they are not easily fooled by fake smiles or exaggerated praise. In fact, they often resent people who try too hard to impress others, and may even view them as disingenuous or manipulative. We live in a world of social media and constant self-promotion, where everyone tries to appear perfect and put together. But for Sigma, it's the little imperfections that make people truly authentic and real. They are often turned off by those who try too hard to be someone they're not. 9. Intrusive questions. Because Sigma males are reserved, chit-chat and meaningless conversations are bad enough, but questions about their personal life are the worst. While some may believe it's perfectly acceptable to ask anything, others may not realize that certain questions may be awkward or even humiliating. Sigmas can be very secretive, and questions about their personal life can be perceived as intrusive and disrespectful. They don't want people to pry into their lives, especially when it's for no apparent reason. Sigma men prefer to keep things private and personal, and would rather not share any unnecessary details with others. They believe a healthy dose of privacy can help preserve intimacy and trust in relationships. This is why they often tend to keep their personal lives separate from their professional lives and avoid sharing too much information with coworkers or strangers. 10. Crowded places. They get exhausted by large crowds. Having so many people from so many different backgrounds all in one place can make them feel overwhelmed. Since some Sigmas are also empaths, they can easily absorb the emotions of those around them. They sometimes feel like they know everyone in the room and get easily overwhelmed by all the activities. Sigma men often prefer to spend time alone rather than in the hustle and bustle of crowded places, whether it's a noisy party or a busy shopping mall. These environments can be overwhelming for them, leaving them feeling drained and exhausted. They would much rather find peace and solitude in a quiet cafe or a nature park where they can recharge their energy levels and focus their thoughts. 11. Being interrupted constantly. Sigma men tend to be very independent, preferring to work alone and on their own terms. They often prefer to do things their own way rather than following instructions or working in a team. This isn't to say that they don't value collaboration or teamwork, but they just like to work at their own pace. That's why it can be incredibly frustrating for them when others constantly interrupt or try to impose their ways of doing things on them. Whether it's an overbearing colleague or a demanding client, Sigmas will get easily annoyed if they feel like their work is being micromanaged or constantly questioned. When it comes to conversation, they also prefer to speak at their own pace rather than having others talk over them or cut them off in the middle. There's nothing more frustrating for a Sigma than being interrupted constantly, so they will do their best to avoid those people or situations altogether. 12. Micromanagement and lack of trust. Sigmas value their independence and need time to make decisions for themselves. When someone is constantly breathing down their neck or questioning their judgment, it makes them feel suffocated and uncomfortable. Micromanagement creates an environment of mistrust, which is why Sigmas often feel frustrated or annoyed when someone tries to control or oversee their work. While it's natural for managers to be involved in the day-to-day operations of an organization, they must trust their employees and allow them the freedom and flexibility to work independently. Being constantly rushed or pressured by others can also leave Sigmas feeling stressed and overwhelmed, which can impact their productivity and creativity. 13. Useless rules and regulations. We often see this in the workplace, where companies have a long list of rules and regulations with no real purpose. They may be just to cover their own asses or avoid lawsuits, but they don't actually make sense or add any value to the business. Another example is when everyone is following the same set of rules and procedures, but they are outdated or impractical for the current environment. But they do it anyway, simply because that's how things have always been done. This frustrates Sigma males, who like to think critically and challenge the status quo. They don't blindly follow the rules for the sake of it, but rather evaluate them on their own merit and see if they actually make sense or produce meaningful results. They are not afraid to question authority or propose new ideas, and this puts them at odds with their more traditional or rule-bound coworkers.